Good morning, everyone. Your Excellency, Engineer Tarek El Molla, Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources, distinguished speakers, honorable attendees, welcome to our Increasing Investment in Egypt's Brownfield Opportunities Roundtable organized by Egypt Oil and Gas and technically prepared by the Egypt Oil and Gas Committee. I am honored by your presence, looking forward to the opportunities before us, and grateful for the trust of our partners have put in Egypt Oil and Gas. But before I continue, allow me to take this chance and extend my sincere welcome and gratitude to His Excellency Minister of Petroleum, Engineer Tarek El Molla. Your Excellency, I would like to congratulate you not only on your exceptional achievements throughout the years, and especially what has been achieved in the past challenging months, but also on your determination that has been never won even in a front of force pandemic. Your persistence to succeed in such a dynamic sector is a lesson to learn from. In today's world, the global fierce market pandemic calls for action. Why not only to excel with Egypt's oil and gas industry, but to lay the needed foundation for growth and further development. Brownfield thus counts as a fundamental element for the oil and gas sector that also reflects on its economy. That said, Egyptian industry leaders and foreign operators and service companies have come to predominantly realize the extreme importance of exploring the opportunities within. In line with our commitment to the petroleum sector, Egypt Oil and Gas is proud to organize another event that brings to the table prominent figures in the Egyptian oil and gas sector. Under the patronage of His Excellency Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources, today's roundtable will address key directions that would and could be another enabler to the government's efforts to increase investments in Egypt's brownfields. We take this chance to discuss challenges, opportunities, and ways of developing our mature fields. We will share different strategies that will reflect on the untapped opportunities that lie within our mature fields. The roundtable is the latest in Egypt Oil and Gas efforts to support the ministry's strategy. This has been in the circle of your concern, Your Excellency, since your time at EGPC as the chairman. Such concern that has been a motive for Egypt Oil and Gas and the committee to work hard on and to outline a framework between all parties in addressing brownfields, which I am sure our committee chairman, Samah Sabri, would be elaborating more in his coming words. Egypt Oil and Gas sticks to its vision of providing the industry with collaborative and mindset environment to boost the development of the oil and gas sector in Egypt. We believe it is vital, we have a very vital role in the development of the sector, working alongside with all industry players to create a sector rich in resources and continuous opportunities. We have always believed that our role is much more crucial in challenging times like what we are facing today. And because of this, we have worked extensively to be able to add more value in assuring a sustainable sector. Also through Egypt Oil and Gas Committee and its honorable members from all IOCs and service companies operating in Egypt, we are able in the past couple of months to act and support in all angles from technical performance, HSE, CSR, and much, much more, of course, with the full support of His Excellency. As you always say, Your Excellency, we work as one family. I would like to end by thanking our speakers present here with us today. Engineer Abed as Regal, EGPC Chairman, Engineer Samir Abedi, Deputy CEO for Production, David Shee, Vice President and Country Manager at Apache Corporation, Tameer Nasser, Director and General Manager Egypt and Sudan at Baker Hughes, Dave Thomas, CEO of Cheiron, Tayeb Huwair, the Chief Operating Officer at Dragon Oil, Colby Fuser, Vice President Egypt and Libya at Halliburton, Giordano Crema, Acting General Manager and Operations Manager for INI IEOC, Kamel Al-Sawi, President of Kuwait Energy Egypt, Karim Badawi, Managing Director Egypt and East Mediterranean at Schlumberger, Khaled Qasim, VP Egypt Country Chairman and Managing Director at Shell Egypt, Craig Robertson, Country Manager and Director at TransGlobe Energy, Samah Sabri, VP and Managing Director of Egypt at Wintershall Dea. And many, many thanks to Transglobe Energy and Wintershall Dea for their generous sponsorship for today's roundtable. Now I would like to introduce our new committee chairman, Samah Sabri, to give some opening remarks.
Thank you, Mohammed. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, Engineer Tarek El Molla, we are really honored for your attendance to this roundtable organized by the Egypt Oil and Gas Committee. This year, we are celebrating 8 years since the establishment of the committee. This may sound young, but proven to be very effective. During the last month, we have used the slowdown period to work extensively on the restructuring of the committee, with the target to strengthen its impact, as well as to further organize its efforts and grow in scope. Besides a slight adjustment to its name, so now we omitted the term technical, and we called it the Egypt Oil and Gas Committee, which reflects its generic scope. We have also created different task forces, including the Brownfields, CSR, HSE, and lately as well, young professionals and communications. We have managed to add new members to the committee as reflected in the names of the companies represented in this roundtable. Moreover, we are currently actively working on preparing for the next version of the upstream Egypt Oil and Gas Upstream Convention, which is now scheduled for January 2021. It will be focused on priorities related to COVID-19 and the related slowdown, including HSE, Brownfields, and others. We'll be honored if you would attend the next version, similar to previous versions of this convention. As a response to COVID-19, this committee was successful in organizing the contributions of the international oil and gas companies and service companies, members of the committee, which valued up to the worth of 4.5 million Egyptian pounds of medical supplies and equipment, which were handed over to the Ministry of Health as part of your initiative, Eid Wahda, one hand, to support the governmental sector to face COVID-19. In my personal view, what is more important than the value is actually the ability to join forces and work collectively as one family, as mentioned by Mohammed and as always described by Your Excellency. In parallel, we have also published a COVID-19 awareness booklet in both Arabic and English, which covers the precautionary measures required to address the COVID-19 situation in our oil and gas sector. This booklet was published in coordination with EGPC. Your Excellency, this roundtable is focused on our main topic, Brownfield, the main topic for the committee for the last period, which will continue to be our priority topic for the coming period as well. However, we are also considering a number of additional themes where the committee will be focused on in the coming period, including technology, including operational efficiency, green efficiency, emissions reduction. And we will be honored, Your Excellency, if you allow us to meet and discuss with you those themes to make sure that we are aligned to the strategy you have set for the sector. At the end, we would like to thank you very much for your continuous support. Your support and your continuous encouragement is the main motive for us to continue to add value and organize our efforts to make sure that we add value to the Egyptian oil and gas sector. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much, Samah, for your opening remarks. And now we would like to hear some opening remarks from Your Excellency, Engineer Tarek El Molla.
Thank you, Engineer Mohammed. So, good morning, everyone, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It is really a pleasure being here among such distinguished group of participants and speakers at today's virtual roundtable. First, I would like to extend my appreciation for the Egypt Oil and Gas Technical Committee and congratulations for you, Engineer Samah, for chairing this committee. So my appreciation for the efforts in organizing this event. I also would like to thank Engineer Mohamed Fouad, Managing Director of Egypt Oil and Gas, for his kind introduction and the effort exerted to host this important event today, giving us the opportunity to gather and to discuss one of the most significant topics in today's oil and gas sector. Ladies and gentlemen, Egypt has taken several bold reforms over the past few years on both the government and economic levels, as well as the oil and gas sector level. These reforms enabled us to achieve significant successes as well as withstanding the huge challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Yet, we still have a long way to go to fulfill the aspirations of the Egyptian people. To achieve better future and face challenges, we need to continually develop technologies, ensure competent and skilled human resources, and boost cooperation and knowledge exchange among all industry stakeholders. Today's roundtable will greatly support this endeavor, especially as it discusses a topic of significant importance to Egypt: brownfields enhancement. Egypt has several opportunities in this area, as well some successes. In this regard, I have asked the Egypt Oil and Gas Technical Committee, in cooperation with EGPC, to develop an action plan for the initiatives identified, prioritizing impact and quick wins. The main objectives are to attract investment in the brownfields, improve performance, and increase crude oil production. I want to seize this opportunity to thank our partners from the international oil companies and service companies who contributed to this effort. The next item in the agenda today is a presentation about the white paper prepared by the Egypt Oil and Gas Committee, which I believe will stimulate a great deal of our discussion today. Thank you. Thank you, Engineer Mohammed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for your kind words, and thank you for your opening remarks. And as you did, yes, mention, our coming part is the presentation on the Egypt Oil and Gas Committee's efforts in the brownfield in the past 12 months. And I'll leave it to Engineer Sameh to give a couple of information on this.
So I will try to share my screen. I hope you can see the slides in a few seconds. So I hope you can see the screen now and you see the slides.
Yes, Engineer Sameh, we do.
Okay, thank you. So Your Excellency, as said before, during the last 12 months, the Egypt Oil and Gas Committee has worked on a well-thought-of white paper about improving brownfield performance in Egypt. This white paper was focused on identifying a number of strategic solutions, actually 11 of them, with 28 initiatives to help improving brownfields in Egypt. As per your guidance and due to your support, this was not just a white paper, a document that was put in front of us, but actually it triggered joint cooperation between EGPC and the committee members to achieve the same target. This cooperation is currently reflected in a number of streams which are working in parallel, opening a working stream between EGPC and the service companies, members of this committee, where MOUs, NDA agreements were signed to support improving brownfields, mostly focused on the 100% operated brownfields by EGPC. In parallel to another stream where we encourage IOCs to discuss directly with EGPC pilot projects, opportunities to be implemented in their respective joint ventures. And the third stream, which we would like to focus on in this presentation, is the establishment of the Brownfield Center of Excellence, being one of the strategic solutions proposed and recommended by the white paper. The Brownfield Center of Excellence approach, its objective is to help in identifying measures to increase production, optimize cost, and generally improve the brownfield conditions in Egypt to attract further foreign investments. This will be achieved through a program of monthly sessions where members of the Egypt Oil and Gas Committee will present new or proven technologies in brownfields, best practices, success stories, lessons learned, including both technical and commercial sides, for brownfields inside and outside Egypt. Your Excellency, those are not educational sessions. Those are not meant to be training or educational sessions, but rather ideation sessions attended by the decision makers in EGPC and the joint ventures. And when we say joint ventures, we don't only mean the EGPC side, but as well delegates of the IOCs. And the target is to identify ideas, measures to be implemented, and to be followed up by real and tailored action plans for such measures to be implemented in those joint ventures, case by case. And the content of the Center of Excellence will be governed by EGPC and academia and presented by the members of the Egypt Oil and Gas Committee. And it will be focused mostly on technology, production optimization measures, how to improve and optimize infrastructure synergies, how to achieve further cost optimizations, how to improve decision-making and risk-taking, and of course, enhance the technological competencies. Finally, we believe that the ultimate target of the Center of Excellence, Your Excellency, is to help attracting more investments by foreign IOCs to the brownfields. We believe that this is the core of the ultimate target of this committee, to make sure that we improve the brownfield conditions jointly with EGPC, with your support, to attract more investments and allow for a better future for those fields. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Engineer Sameh. Your Excellency, if you allow us to start with our first session, we have three main topics, directions that we will be covering in today's roundtable: optimum brownfield revival strategies, technology's role in boosting production of brownfields, and the economic barriers of brownfields in Egypt. These three main sessions will be mainly presented by different speakers from the roundtable today. Each speaker would have an average of 3 to 4 minutes to briefly provide a constructive dialogue of idea of how we can attract more investments in brownfield. According to the discussion, of course, there will be some time left for some flexibility for any comments or recommendations or added comments to what has been mentioned. So if you would allow us, we would like to start with our first session, Optimum Brownfield Revival Strategies, which will mainly focus on the investment recovery mechanism, locking in competitive service costs, new business models, and global best practices. By alphabetical company name order, I would like to ask Mr. Tameer Nasser, Director and General of Baker Hughes, to start with his own statement for 3 to 4 minutes. And please allow me, I'm going to be not a nice person when it comes to sticking to the timing. Thank you, Tameer.
Thank you, Mohammed. Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues and the audience, it's an honor as a energy technology company to join this roundtable today to support Egypt and our customers in boosting investments in brownfields. At first, when we're talking about investments in brownfields, we want to make sure that we have the right investment climate. We believe actually that we do. If we look at Egypt economy, as Your Excellency noted at the beginning, it's actually it's a strong economy, and I think what happened this year this economy has been tested, and it proved it's a strong one. Now we have an inflation rate of 3.7%, which is actually less than the start of the year. We have a healthy foreign reserve of $38.4 billion. And when we look at the reasons for that, we see that Egypt actually came through an intensive, and it was a very complex economic reform program. That started from 20. Lots of reforms were made whereby this year we're seeing the results. Even the financing that was raised earlier this year was oversubscribed 4 times, because now investors are really trusting the economy. We have availability for foreign currency. Repatriation we have no issue in repatriating profits for shareholders. So with a good credit rating and a stable outlook by renowned credit agencies like Moody's and Standard & Poor's. So this is a very healthy and good investment climate as a start. For Brownfields, we appreciate that the consistency that you consistently highlight that Brownfield is important for Egypt. We have the same view. It's important to bridge the gap between the supply and the demand, and actually we think it's very important. It's a very appealing investment for investors, because recovering the production or the remaining production in a brownfield well, in terms of cost, is cheaper to invest than actually going and exploring and producing from a green field. So actually, this is a very good investment opportunity. I don't think the edge actually would be the technology in getting there to all the investments that are needed. The technology is important. We have the technology, so do others in the market like Halliburton and Schlumberger. So we have the technology, and it's a bit similar. However, I think the edge is tackling the investments in a new way. So having the right business and commercial model, the accessibility to data, visibility as well. And we have different investment techniques or unique investment models that we have already in Baker Hughes, and we can even share it going further with EGPC. And we are currently working.
10 seconds away.
That's it? Okay.
Thank you, Tameer.
Thank you, Mohamed.
I would like to go to our next speaker for this topic, Mr. Tayeb Huwair, who is the Chief Operation Officer for Dragon Oil. Mr. Tayeb, it's all yours.
Excellency, distinguished speaker, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. First, I would like to thank Your Excellency for giving us this opportunity to participate in such an important event. I think the Brownfield, we know that the oil and gas is the future energy, and Brownfield is the major source of the energy. So your initiative is not only for the Egypt, I think it will help the rest of the world. We as a Dragon Oil, we have more than 30 years in a mature experience in the mature field. So today, and we have been almost 1 year in Egypt and had the pleasure working with EGPC and GAPCO. To open the scene and talking more specific on Brownfield, I would like to bring few successful story. Thanks to your guideline at the beginning of the Dragon Oil takeover of the BP concessions, you have given us some guidelines, and we have implemented them, and we have some success stories to say. So from increasing the production, reducing the cost, as well as having a great success in our new development wells. Now, having said that, the main challenges in GAPCO and the high potentials that you've highlighted, we have challenges, but at the same time, the Gulf of Suez has huge potentials. One of the most important elements was the reservoir data, which will contribute significantly in increasing the productions. Thanks to Your Excellency and the Ministry and EGPC, I think we have done the 3D OBM, which has been completed in a very short period of time. And we think that it will have a significant added value in improving our brownfield productions. Any brownfield has its own challenges, But to be more specific in areas that we need to concentrate on, and we have proven and you have proven in GAPCO, one of them is partnership with the service provider. I think we need to have some sort of win-win contract situation with the service provider, with the technology providers. And in Egypt and in GAPCO specifically, we need to look at improving the drilling efficiency as well as artificial intelligence and enhance oil recovery. So in general, GAPCO and Egypt in general, the Brownfield has some challenges with the significant potentials that we could really improve it. The issues of the new technology, I believe it's very important. But the other one important, but maybe in the later stage, that we need to look at economic models to encourage the investors. We believe that the business models need to be more dynamic and in line with the Brownfield and the market conditions. So in general, lots of potentials, lots of opportunities. And Your Excellency, we also would like to cascade down this Brownfield to having a forum between the operating companies so they can look at the lesson learned and success stories and best practices. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tayeb, and thank you for sticking to the timing. I really appreciate it. So we'll go next to our coming speaker. Of course, the idea of sticking to timing is mainly just to create the flexibility to have an open dialogue of discussion if it's required between every end session. Our coming speaker, Mr. Kamel Al-Sawi, President of Kuwait Energy Egypt. Mr. Kamel.
Okay, thank you, Mohammed. I'd like to thank Your Excellency and thank you, Mohammed, for bringing up this important topic to the table. If we kept in mind that more than 80% of the world's and even Egypt production is coming from the brownfields, we will realize that how it's important to pay attention to adopting the necessary strategies for the revitalization of the brownfields. And here today, I'm going to talk out of our on-ground experience of managing one of the oldest brownfields in Egypt that's producing since 1958 in cooperation with General Petroleum Company. I think one of the main principles of the economic theory is that during the recession, especially at these difficult times, the businesses and the companies focus on the efficiency improvement rather than growth to maintain profit and also to gain competitive edge in this difficult market. As we all know that most of the Egypt oil fields are brownfields. And I think this gives us how it's important to control the challenges that is facing the brownfields operations in order to increase production, especially that the brownfield exploration of production is important as these assets can maintain production rates without large investment, as we all know. I think in Kuwait Energy, we have presented a model of managing the brownfields. We continue to deliver value out of our operated field area A in cooperation with General Petroleum Company. We have succeeded to boost the production of the field to around 9,000 barrels from about 1,200 barrels at the start, and we have almost produced 26 million barrels out of this field in the last 10 years. This can give you the flavor of how much important the brownfields can bring benefit to the industry. I think the best way to increase production and optimize expenses is to adopt a model that forestalls the decline rate in the mature field while optimizing CapEx and OpEx. And this will come by enabling the new technologies and also the analysis of the old data, which is very important aspect while managing the brownfields. And analyzing this data in the light of the recent advancement in the reservoir characterization, seismic interpretation, I think will add big value to these fields. Our approach as Kuwait Energy in managing these brownfields could be summarized in just a few points for other operators to take use of this. we have paid too much attention to analyzing the old data in the light of the recent technologies. And also, we have reviewed the hydrocarbon in place, production analysis, recovery factors, and wellbore conditions and the facilities capacities. And we have worked very hard to address the near-term production issues. And as His Excellency mentioned at the beginning of his speech, we were concentrating on the immediate impact and the quick win opportunities, which I think have delivered a great value to the field, and hence it was a win-win situation between the company and the EGPC. I think this is one of the models that we can adopt and the other IOCs can benefit from. As we all know that the model that we are using in managing ADA is service agreement, and I'm here need to shed light on this important model, which I think by just having arrangement with EGPC, we can make it better for other IOCs to adopt in other brownfields. I know that I have passed my time.
Not yet, you're just on time. You're just on time. Thank you so much, Ken. And thank you for your very valuable input. And it's very good to see that you have been able to increase that, make that production optimization from 1,200 to 9,000 barrels from brownfields. I think it's very perfect.
Thank you.
And of energy. Correct? Yeah. Craig?
Sorry, Mohammed, you broke up there. Good morning, Your Excellency. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here as usual, talking about mature brownfields from a TransGlobe point of view. And one of the good points about going last in this section is I think most of the points have been covered already, so I can keep within the 3 minutes, I think. So yeah, TransGlobe love mature brownfields, to be honest. In fact, it's our core business. They're challenging, of course, but they're also full of known potential. And we're very fortunate that we've been able to use our Canadian experience in brownfields and applied quite a lot of the technologies that we've been successful in Canada with here. However, it's not just about us. It needs to be more broadly minded, which has already been discussed regarding the centres of excellence in the white paper. And we very much look forward to being part of that. We're a small company, but we're actually a major player in the Eastern Desert. Some of these fields in the Eastern Desert that we are working on are been in production for 40 years, but there's still potential. So for example, West Bakker, we've managed to treble the production in West Bakker, which is 40 years old, and simply by using proven technologies and best practices in the industry, and of course optimizing across the board. So it can be done. But the problem is, as you know, mature fields, as they become older, they become less attractive and smaller scale in terms of the remaining reserves. Therefore, the economics need to attract smaller companies willing to use their expertise and new technologies. And the other problem is that the cheap barrels have been produced in the Eastern Desert in our fields. The remaining reserves are the more difficult ones. And by more difficult, obviously, more expensive. However, we believe that with the correct business models in place, these fields are definitely workable and achievable to produce and grow. The other thing I'd like to say is we fully understand the step change which has been happening both in the ministry and EGPC in terms of flexibility to achieve win-win for the stakeholders for the mature brownfields. And we're actually proud to be part of that change. But it's been very noticeable lately that there's really currently a revolution in the Egyptian petroleum sector in terms of flexibility and willing to talk and willing to discuss to get this win-win. And we've actually witnessed that in the last year. So that's very, very positive. The challenges TransGlobe are facing going ahead is obviously the more difficult barrels, but getting the right technology in place and competitive technology in place, that will go a long way for us achieving our growth goals. time is a factor. Is that my time up, Mohamed?
Yes, time is a factor, as you said, Greg.
Time is a factor, but more so for the mature fields, because obviously they're under pressure from the move to gas and renewables. So the time is now to achieve our goals, and we just need the right environment.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. So we come to the end of our 4 speakers for this session. If there will be any comments or that anyone or Your Excellency Engineer Abed that would like to add before we go on to our second session. So we have also a poll question that we would like to add before to our attendees to share with us before we go on to our second session. When do you expect the supply and demand curve to change with demand being higher than the supply? Q1 2021, end of 2021, middle of 2022, never supply will always be higher than demand. Would like you all to share within our queue.
بيسميه سألني. Is it me?
Yes.
Ah,
Would like to say something?
Okay. Thank you. First, I would like first to welcome His Excellency and all the attendees. And I think we have ambitious plan in all the fields and all the new areas, but we depend upon some reality in changing the mood of consumption during the next period as well. So there is 2 factors. The first factor is to define precisely the projected consumption during the next couple of years and for long term. The second term is to maximize the local production to that. The third is to have a better utilization or rationalization for the oil products or hydrocarbon products. And this come by fact after the economic reforms during the last period. We have noticed some rationalization in consumption, and also would like to have some benefit from the old files and backlog in our old fields, because with the new technology we can reduce the cost and maximize the production. All of this together can lead to maximize production and the other factor to optimize the consumption as well.
Thank you very much, Engineer Abed, for your comments. We would like to go on to our second session of the day, technology's role in boosting production of brownfields. And in this session, we'll be mainly focusing on the efficiency to reduce cost per barrel, maximizing oil recovery, adoption of technologies to contracts where applicable, and reservoir management. So I would like to start with our first speaker of this session, Colby Fuser, who's the Vice President for Egypt and Libya at Halliburton. Colby, all yours.
Good morning, Mohammed. Thank you very much. And I wanted to start off by thanking His Excellency for such a great environment to discuss not only the opportunity, challenges in Egypt related to the brownfields. I do want to take the time to talk about some of the challenges, but before we get in there, let's address the main question. So as a service company, what is our role as it relates to technology? And that's basically to be an enabler. You know, for us to collaborate with the various companies and the country to develop engineered solutions that not only maximize the asset value for the customers, but in these cases, improve the brownfields in Egypt. I would have to say as well that, you know, we're very excited about the opportunity. There's been a lot of technology that's actually been applied here in Egypt. And I'll take kind of a little bit of a moment to talk on some of that. You know, when we talk about technology, especially as a service company, one of those things that we know is not going to be the right application for every situation. We could have one technology that works in Western Desert, but not Eastern Desert. And especially whenever you have multiple fields like what we do in Egypt, the challenges are very varietal and they come in very different things. So we have to have the right application. And that's exactly, I think, what the conversations we're having with EGPC and with the country are doing right now that are very positive. So let's talk about a couple of those that we've had some support on. I want to give an example of a customer that we had in Western Desert that was producing around 1,900 barrels a day and about 30% water cut. Eventually that well ended up shutting completely off because of low production, and determined that the issues was cross flow and we needed better isolation. So working with that customer, one of the technologies that was proposed was a product called H2O and backstop, which had definitely a positive effect because the well came back on at around 2,500 barrels a day with minimal water. You know, we talk about the lowest cost per BOE. One of the things, this can be done on a rigless site, so not on a rig. So it's actually about a fourth of the cost that was spent. And then another success that we had talked about that I think has been very promising is in the Gulf of Suez, where we talk about being able to go onto older platforms. We deployed a technology called Relay, digital slickline. What that allowed us to do is go into a conventional setup where we needed either heavier products to do that, equipment, and we were able to go in and increase production in some cases 60%. So these are all things that whenever you work in collaboration with your customer and with within the EGPC, that you're able to actually achieve. Now, there's two other parts of this that I want to talk about, and I know I've got about a minute left here, Mohamed. So one of those is the part of technology and local content. So I think most people know, or maybe some of you know, we have a technology that's currently being applied right now where we're using local sand in the Western Desert to increase production and help improve production. That actually is a win-win for everybody. So one of the things that we'll focus on is definitely trying to get more local content into the technologies. And lastly is looking at how we view these fields holistically. Now, as most people had said, and we had mentioned earlier, we're currently working in the brownfields with the EGPC-owned companies to be able to look at the full reservoir, do a full study, and then come back and identify what really needs to happen, whether it's refracking, isolation, something like that. So these are all parts that I think that the country has done very well and working toward. One of the challenges, I know, Mohamed, one of the challenges is being able to come up with a win-win for both companies, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Colby. Our next speaker for technology's role is Mr. Krema. He's the Acting General Manager and Operations Manager at IEOC. Mr. Krema, all yours.
Thank you, Mohamed, and Your Excellency, esteemed colleagues. Good morning. It is a pleasure meeting you all and the connected people to this roundtable. I'm proud in representing IOC and Eni today with this particular focus on the brownfields. When we talk about brownfields, we could focus on several aspects of their exploitation, but the technology for sure play a key role. My target today is to open a discussion on the reservoir management, while always keeping in mind why we need to apply the most advanced reservoir management and what we need to do in order to get the maximum value recovery from the fields. We often forget to focus on how we do it. In my opinion, in this momentum, we do not have a choice. We need to boost how we collect, store, organize, preserve, elaborate, analyze, and at the very end, use the data from various subsurface and surface sources. At the same time, we need to keep updated and develop IT infrastructure, so the hardware, the platforms, the software, and especially the data culture of the people, which produce improved processes and new tools that can use to extract effective insights from this data, and determine then decisions which bring value to the companies and finally to the country and to the people. This could seem just words, but let me tell you what we have developed in these last years in Eni to tackle the above approach. One of the most valuable approach we used for brownfield is so-called the integrated production data analysis, especially its application as input for the reservoir simulation history match workflow, or using ensemble history match allowed to massively use data and parallel simulation to reduce uncertainty. PDA evidences should be considered a valuable input for the 3D modeling, providing information on reservoir behavior rather than on single well performance. Specifically, PDA integrated in ensemble history match workflows allow to weight uncertainties in a proper way, building and analyzing models, honoring both static and dynamic data. When coupling the integrated PDA to the history match workflow, we have several steps to be considered. I don't want to enter in the details, but the most important thing is that the workflow is best value coupled with a strong hardware and quick simulation software. And invested strongly in technology like many other major and service companies, and it is recognized that we have been the front runners in advanced reservoir simulation. Our cutting-edge high-performance computing infrastructure technology, EGPC 5, the fastest industrial supercomputer in the world, and our proprietary technologies allow it to discover ZOR and will allow to exploit at the best our reservoirs. Indeed, together with the USA startup Stone Ridge Technology, Eni developed recently a new reservoir simulation software, Echelon, and a new ensemble engine for risk analysis and history match, Anchor, totally based on graphical processing unit infrastructure. By using parallelism and a massive launching of simulations run, the software is able to simulate fields behavior, perform history match, and produce risk analysis 7 to 10 times faster than commercial leader software, based on standard CPU technology. Where is the value for the brownfields? Apart the speed of the simulation, which allow engineers to avoid waste of time and increase their productivity, think about the possibility to model the reservoir with high degrees of details, preserving the geology realism, and taking into account subsurface uncertainties in order to improve the forecast reliability, to optimize, for instance, in filling plan, water injection, and more in general, reservoir management. When managers are in the position to take better decisions, based on proposal coming from technical team, asset value could be increased and field life extended, especially for brownfields. This is not enough, the technology is not enough. We have to work in a concession agreement framework that is favorable to all the companies. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Krima. Appreciate you also sticking to the timing. Our coming speaker, Karim Badawi, who's the Managing Director of Egypt and East Mediterranean Schlumberger. Karim?
All right, good morning and good afternoon to all. First, let me pass my appreciation to Your Excellency, Engineer Tarek El Molla, Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources. You know, your leadership and support to the sector really in making the time to engage with us and reinforce this true partnership amongst all of us toward the common goal is really very much appreciated. And in my talk today, I would like to discuss the role of technology in boosting the production in Egypt brownfield. You know, Schlumberger's purpose is really together to create amazing technology to unlock access to energy for the benefit of all. And today, for the sake of time, I will share 3 key examples in Egypt that strongly demonstrate the role of technology in promoting Egypt brownfields. And those 3 examples are the multi-seismic acquisition processing for the Gulf of Suez, the introduction of Pulsar, a multifunctional spectroscopy service, also known as KNX, and also the Egypt Production Digital Center. So first, I'll start with the multi-client project in the Gulf of Suez. And the Gulf of Suez has one of the most complex subsurface structures in the world and has been a major source, actually, of Egypt oil production. And over the year, has been declining. However, with all the joint tag team and efforts, and collaboration also with EGPC and the ministry, Schlumberger is very proud of our joint effort to leverage the best-in-class seismic processing, technology and designed to execute, the ocean bottom nodes and streamer survey in the Gulf of Suez. The first phase was completed, during the first half of this year, and the results of which will help operators to maximize the chances, success in their drilling and production activities, and potentially identify also new plays to unlock new and full potential of their assets. Not only that, but also to enable new investment by de-risking operator spend. And also, we're very proud also to announce that we've shared with the operators in the Gulf of Suez, the start of our design for the next 3rd phase, actually, for this project over the next few months. Now I'll move to the second example, which is the introduction of Pulsar in Egypt. And this one really, I will first start with a press release actually from GPC, which has achieved, in July, a record production for the first time ever, since establishment. And this production record really, is a result of the successful work implemented by GPC in their various fields. And we're very proud also of, the mentioning of Schlumberger's technology in this press release, which indicated the Pulsar multifunctional spectroscopy, in 2 wells offshore, which really has helped in terms of opening up, those two wells which were only producing water and now are fully producing in terms of crude oil. And one of the successes of the pulsar technology is this unique independent measurement, from pulsar to help detecting bypass hydrocarbon in old wells, determine water entry for water shutoff, as well as assess the sweeping efficiency and enhance oil recovery techniques, right, to improve the reservoir recovery factor. And really all of this truly revealing the full potential of existing brownfields. And third, I would now move to the third example, which is the Egypt Production Digital Center. And we're very proud that Schlumberger, has been really working in collaboration and has been awarded this digital project, which is fully aligned by your digital transformation of the sector, which is led by Your Excellency. And this center will be a key enabler in investment in the brownfield because it will really help to reduce the cost per barrel. Egypt Digital Producing Center will help utilize latest technology to digitalize, streamline production data reporting across all the Egypt producing assets and provide a set of access, for better decision support dashboards, which will enable more efficient, quick identification of bottlenecks and allow quick turnaround of decisions. And I would really like to conclude really by saying the fact that coupling the best-in-class acquisition technologies with the right set of digital enablers to transform the acquired data into knowledge is one of the key success to develop really the lower cost per barrel in the brownfield. And I would like to thank you and reiterate really Schlumberger's commitment to be a key strategic partner and also to really help and produce the oil production and help leverage our technology to attract investment in Egypt brownfield. Thank you, Your Excellency, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Kareem. Our final speaker for this session is Khalid Qasim, Vice President, Country Chairman, and Managing Director for Shell Egypt. Khalid, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Engineer Mohammed. Your Excellency, my esteemed colleagues on the panel, and all the attendees, good morning. I think first, let me say that this is indeed a crucial topic for oil and gas operators in Egypt and worldwide. Developing and operating brownfield opportunities that are resilient to the market fluctuations and uncertainty is now more critical than ever. And here I want to share today some of the examples that enabled us to realize and sustain very competitive operating costs and production improvements in Egypt, particularly in the brownfield environment through technologies and through continuous business improvements while focusing on the bottom line. Onshore, for instance, we continuously challenge the unit development costs to maintain a high level of activities with challenging target sizes. For instance, in 2019, Papetco went from 3-section wells to 2-section, reducing costs significantly. We have introduced aggressive injectivity in water injection wells, avoiding costs and time lost on expensive fracking operations. In total, Papetco reduced its end-to-end well costs by more than 20% in 2020 compared to 2019. Another example is our production enhancement technology, ranging from fracking to multi-stage fracking, as well the successful application of the fishbone technology in long horizontal wells with barefoot completion in tight reservoirs. In the Western Desert as well, we have worked with service companies in running the ESP pump and perforating guns in the same run. So through these examples, I would like to highlight that there is really great collaboration between EGPC, IOCs, and the contractors, and all parties are very willing to have the conversation about the right cost and scale to allow for successful deployment of technologies in Egypt. For offshore, for instance, in West Delta Deep, the 9B project is a good example. We have used a 6th-generation rig to drill the wells with a huge competitive costs. We improved well designs, optimizing casing schemes and selected completions. Significant savings as well were achieved through schedule acceleration, efficient procurement strategies, and reusing of existing subsea equipment for CapEx optimization. So just to summarize, I would say that new technologies can definitely improve production, reduce costs, and enhance efficiency, but if properly applied. In addition, I strongly believe that Egypt Brownfield can accelerate improvements through addressing three key areas. First, Egypt land rig market is aging, and a step change can be achieved by faster moving rigs with automation and digital capabilities. I think Brownfield WRFM requires very good quality data, which can then be used for proactive WRFM activities as opposed to running to failure or reactive WRFM activities. Finally, we know that there are differences between the technological complexities between the onshore and the offshore, particularly in deep water. I believe that there are huge opportunities that exist in the offshore brownfield that need to be looked at, leveraged, and supported in parallel with a focus on the onshore. Thank you.
Thank you, Khaled, very much. Thank you. Engineer Abed, Engineer Samir Abed, would you like to add any comments with regards to what we've heard from our speakers here with regards to promoting the use of new technologies and how that can play a vital role in optimizing production from our brownfields?
I think we have done a lot of negotiation over the last period with service provider and with some partner from IOCs, and there is a good progress in this regard. So some steps for application and implementation, and I think we have passed the bottleneck during the preparation for the next cooperation between us and them. And the next step is just to define the best opportunity and the suitable new technology to unlock any potential in the brownfield and also to optimize the cost in the same regard. We have started with some fields owned and operated by EGPC to facilitate taking decision, and we are opening the door for all other partners if they have a well-defined project for the brownfield to deal with it as a standalone project with its economics and study. The main challenge for all of us is to arrest the normal decline field and to maximize the working together with our partner. Was very important to have some session from service provider like Cheiron, like Baker, like Halliburton, to present their latest technology to our GVs and to our partner as well. And I think we have agreed upon that to be as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Abed. And it seems that we would like to invite and encourage all the players in brownfields in Egypt to actually visit EGPC and look into the different brownfield opportunities that they have within their JVs and surely come up with different ideas from a technological and commercial direction that will definitely help in optimizing these productions, of course. Of course, I would like to, before going to the third session, we have the answers for our poll that was announced in the after the session number 1. Can we bring that up, please? So I believe we have a 36% believe that middle of 2022 is when the curve might change, and a very close to end of 21 also saying more or less the same thing. So it seems that it's a long time to go, that we definitely need to work along together with different strategies and also to make sure that we were able to pass these challenging times. Our second poll before we start our third session is, where is the next big discovery of Egypt's oil and gas market? Is it the Red Sea or Western Desert, East Mediterranean, or West Mediterranean? Red Sea, Western Desert, East Mediterranean, West Mediterranean. So our final session of today is mainly focusing on the economic barriers, which I believe is a very, very important part of the discussion of brownfields. And I would like to start with David Shee, who is the Vice President and General Manager for Apache. This session will mainly be focusing on the PSC economic flexibility, cash flow management, project costs need more certainty to be recovered. David?
All right, Your Excellency, colleagues, Sabara here. As technology continues to advance, of course, our ability to recover more oil from our assets will continue to increase. But if you look around the world, most oil and gas fields never really reach their technical recovery limit before being abandoned. Of course, many reasons led to this result, such as poor field management practices. But to me, the largest driver has to do with insufficient return for investors or operators, which prevented many from investing in brownfields. To get more oil out of the reservoirs in a mature field, of course, it could be achieved in a number of ways. Some examples include that we have to supply more energy at the reservoir level, at the well level, or at surface. It can also mean injecting additional fluid or chemicals to either improve sweep efficiency or change the physical and chemical balance of fluids to allow unswept hydrocarbon to come up. Of course, all these, what does they do? I mean, they translate into higher costs and making the project economics to be more challenging. But why is increasing investment in brownfield important? Maintaining production level is challenging in a depletion business like ours. Now, when we talk about increasing production, of course, that is even more difficult. So in order to achieve this, we must continue to succeed in finding more hydrocarbon through exploration efforts. And we need to maximize the economic recovery of the resources that we have found. There are certain advantages in investing in mature assets. First, from a hydrocarbon resource perspective, there's minimal exploration risk given the oil and gas have already been found and are producing. And the infrastructure for production, processing, transportation should be in place. Therefore, additional production can quickly be put online and make a timely impact. And from a human resource perspective, there should be plenty of technical talents who are familiar with the assets, therefore having the right personnel to execute recovery enhancement projects should not be a big issue. But the last piece of puzzle that needs to be in place to make brownfield investment proposition attractive to bring more financial resources, of course, is to overcome the potential economic barriers that might make them economic feasible. So I think for that, we need to focus on two general angles, which is one, operational efficiency, and the number two, fit-for-purpose fiscal regimes. From the operator perspective, I think operator need to focus on operating in the most effective and efficient way. The lower the cost per barrel, of course, the more likely additional economic barrels can be extracted before the fields are abandoned. Brownfields tend to have aging infrastructure, so of course requires a higher maintenance cost. And these assets are also likely to produce lots of water and have a larger overhead burden, which drive operating costs higher. If we consider tapping into unconventional resources within our assets, the cost per barrel of extraction from these tighter formations, of course, are typically higher than that of conventional reservoirs. So optimized operation and cost performance will be a key in enabling the extension of field life to increase production and recovery. On the host government side, of course, then we need to consider designing a fiscal term that will enable the economic recovery of riskier or harder to extract hydrocarbon resources, which should result in a win-win situation for both investor and the host country. For brownfields, I think a couple of elements are key to success. First, there needs to be a mechanism for investors to recover the significant upfront capital investment in a timely manner. Many times, operator must, test various technical solutions before finding the optimal technology application for the field. And following significant capital investment upfront to implement the identified solution, knowing that our investment can be recovered timely is critical in deciding to proceed with such investment. And the second thing, of course, when we evaluate the feasibility of brownfield applications, normally it's at the later part of the life. So sometimes the concession lives, are close to the end, and we need to have enough time to be able to execute these projects. Finally, decision-making process, of course, and procurement procedure need to be redesigned so operators can execute the plan quickly and efficiently. So finally, as we all have witnessed, His Excellency's comprehensive modernization plan for our sector has made a significant impact in the last 4 or 5 years and have made Egypt one of the brightest spots in the industry globally. I believe Brownfield can be the next focus area, which can take us to the next stage. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And I think, yes, the purpose of our gathering here today is to keep a focal eye on the brownfield opportunities and to attract more investments in this area from all angles, of course. Our coming speaker, Dave Thomas, who's the CEO of Cheiron. Dave? I just need you to unmute, Dave.
That's great. Thank you, Mohamed. Can you hear me? Hello, Mohamed. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Your Excellency, Chairman Abed, and distinguished fellow participants. I guess I was very happy to be invited to participate in this roundtable because Cheiron, as a company, has really been built on the redevelopment and expansion of mature oil fields primarily in the Gulf of Suez, but also more latterly in the Western Desert. We've got quite a wide range of assets with 6 main fields, a variety of infrastructure, 10 offshore platforms, hundreds of kilometers of pipelines, onshore reception plants, onshore gathering stations in the Western Desert. And we also have the only operating FPSO in Egypt under our remit as well. So we've got a range of opportunities to deploy technologies. And we are, I would characterize ourselves as being sort of mainstream operators in that regard. We handle our mature fields with the use of existing technology with simple projects such as power centralization, fuel gas import, water flood programs. But also we do use some quite sophisticated new technology with directional drilling techniques. Colby mentioned some polymer injection opportunities that we're also pursuing. So we are very keen to have an environment where we can invest in these technologies and indeed increase brownfield production. But in terms of the environment for it, I think the economic framework here is well set, but there are a few areas where we see that certain tweaks or changes or areas of focus could improve technology application and indeed brownfield production and reserves. The first one is risk sharing. And I actually think this is a commercial issue. When applying new technology to mature fields, obviously there is a risk that the technology won't work. And I'm not sure whether we have quite the right balance between the commercial risk sharing between the service companies, the IOCs and the government. And this is an area I think that the committee could focus on over the next few months to see if we can actually encourage further applications. The other area worth mentioning is that, as everybody is aware, the PSC cost recovery system allows for the recovery of capital investment over several years, and then hence as we approach the end of concession lives, it becomes increasingly difficult to invest in the field development activity. we've had the privilege to work very closely with EGPC and the Ministry on a number of these initiatives over the years to extend concession lives and also potentially have the award of new concessions. And we appreciate the openness and flexibility that's been shown during these discussions. But the discussions are by nature very complicated and time-consuming. And both the government and the IOCs need assurance that their negotiating positions are fair and reasonable, and the outcome is sustainable. And so our experience is that these negotiations can actually last for a considerable period of time. So again, our experience would suggest that these types of conversations need to start 5 years or perhaps even 10 years before the end of concession lives. And we would be very keen to explore ways in which these discussions can be expedited to allow accelerated investment in the tail end of the field lives. I know in the new EGPC model concession agreement, there is a provision to allow accelerated cost recovery, which is great for new concessions, but obviously it may not be sufficient to facilitate substantial investment and doesn't help the other concessions.
Thank you, Dave.
And then the final, sorry, just one final comment, Mohamed. Sorry, my connection here is looking quite poor. We're wondering whether it would be worth having an exploratory discussion on the production sharing regime versus tax and royalty regimes, Mohamed. Tax and royalty is obviously a simpler system to regulate and administer than production sharing. And they can be used to make fairly wide-ranging and quick policy changes to stimulate industry, and also, where required, to rebalance government and IOC reward mechanisms. But I think this is a big, complex area and would need.
Thank you, Dave. I think you're cutting out.
Hello, Mohamed.
Yes, you're back. We got it. Thank you, Dave. Our last speaker for this session, Samah Sabri, Senior Vice President, Managing Director for Wintershall Dea. Samah?
Thank you, Mohammed. Brownfields are rightly the focus of the Egyptian oil and gas sector in this period. And this is, of course, the rightly focus, given the pending target to reach to self-sufficiency in liquid production. As said by all distinguished attendees, we have passed the easy oil. We need to apply sophisticated technology, production optimization measures, enhanced recovery measures to arrest the natural decline in our brownfields and increase production. But as said, this requires the right economic environment for this. And let's address the main problem. One of the main hurdles of investment in brownfields is the big accumulated cost pool, which, as mentioned by Dave and as well by Dave, is actually the main hurdle, given that the lower production levels, also the low oil prices, are making it more and more difficult for the timely recovery of such costs for foreign investors. Let alone that there are additional high costs required to maintain the asset integrity, to do maintenance, to keep the facilities and the equipment up and running, which are not necessarily leading to increase of production. Yes, it leads to increase in operational efficiency, but not a direct impact every time on production levels. And this makes, of course, the cost recovery mechanism facing hurdles to be optimum as designed. But in that angle, we have our own experience as Wintershall Dea, a very successful one, where the Ministry of Petroleum, EGPC, have been very responsive to discussions regarding what could be required to be amended in the concession agreements to allow for a win-win arrangement between IOC and the state company EGPC. From that perspective, it's not only about commercial terms in PSC, it's also about cost optimization. And this requires and we have this good experience with EGPC, very healthy discussions between shareholders to try to optimize cost and to avail enough buffer in the budget to allocate for investments and production optimization measures. In Suku, we have managed to reduce the operational cost by around 23% in 2020, thanks to the cooperation with EGPC. Having that said, cost optimization does not, and we keep on emphasizing this, does not mean that we compromise QHSE by any means. And speaking of Gulf of Suez, which is all facing an issue, an environmental issue with the wastewater, we are proud that we are still continuing in this crisis year with our investment in building new wastewater treatment plants to address this big environmental issue. But to be able to address cost optimization in its full perspective, we will need to discuss as well the overheads and to see the G&A costs, which are burdening the old fields, the brownfields, and not necessarily reflecting the current levels of production. At the end, I would like to praise as well that that given the strong execution arm of the Ministry of Petroleum of EGPC, having companies like Petrojet, MP, and other service providers in engineering and construction, this helps a lot with good discussion to accelerate execution of projects and try to optimize costs and enable investments in those brownfields with the target, of course, to maximize the output out of them. Thank you, Mohamed.
Thank you very much, Sama, for your kind words. Engineer Abed, would you like to add some remarks?
Yes, just like to highlight that among the participants, a lot of representatives have been gone together with a serious negotiation with EGPC regarding any response from EGPC towards the crisis and to have some amendment in the concession agreement. And I think we have started this journey at least 5 years ago when we started negotiating the extension, not in the last year. We started many years before that. And as David mentioned, yes, we have responded to this and we are ready to negotiate, but not 10 years. Another thing I would like to focus is the role of our partner as well. It's not my fault to delay the operation regardless the current crisis and lose some time in the beginning of the concession agreement and then come to the end. No, I'm not able to recover. If we start in the proper time, you have the ability to recover in the proper time. So it's both sides are responsible for that. If you have a planned program approved, ready to launch, as soon as we approve the amendment, we are ready to negotiate and we are ready to reach a win-win situation towards any terms and conditions. We are open in this regard. We are open to deal with any brownfield project as a standalone project with its own economic study and commercial term. We are ready for all of that, but and we have shown that with many of our partners, and among them a lot of the participants, and they know that very well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Abed, and thank you for your key messages. And yes, as we said, we know that EGPC, under the leadership, of course, of His Excellency Engineer Tarek, are now open more into creating the environment needed to encourage IOCs to invest more into brownfields. So that is a key message that has been delivered, and that is one of the angles that this committee is going to be working on very closely with you to be able to achieve. Any comments or based on the discussions that have been available that anybody else would like to add? So we come mainly to the end, and of course we cannot end this without the final remarks of His Excellency, Engineer Tarek. Of course, your final comments and remarks on what has been presented today from different strategies and ideations on investment in brownfields is going to be a crucial angle of moving forward in the directions that is necessarily needed. Engineer Tarek.
So thank you very much, Mohammed. Actually, I'm very pleased to have this 1.5 hour roundtable. Actually, I would have loved to have it on face-to-face basis in order to make sure that we have the proper interaction and we can have a better communication rather than being and sitting behind the screen, which really don't give us the full possibility of connectivity together, reaching the needed messaging both sides. So having said so, I just wanted to really thank all the participants, because actually we have been attended by many participants, and the speakers are among the 10 participants, and the speakers there are mostly our partners and the service companies who are our partners as well, operating in Egypt. And I think that they wouldn't have participated unless they believe in the oil and gas sector of Egypt, and they believe in their business in Egypt, and they believe in their investments in Egypt. So this in itself gives us the reassurance and give us the indication that we all together, and again I reiterate this expression, saying all together, because we are all together, one team, one industry here in Egypt. So different stakeholders, yes, but we are all working together in this industry. So what I just wanted to say that throughout this very good discussions that we've heard presenters talking about the needs, and I agree on what they said, the needs for flexible commercial terms, fiscal regime. We need to implement technologies, and therefore we are having your good partnership as well as the major service companies as well. We need to have also flexible legal frameworks, and this is definitely is needed. We have to focus on performance. We have to look at the cost optimization and cost reduction, definitely, which will give us definitely the better efficiency. Having said so, and I heard everyone, and I am actually among all the participants and speakers, we have already had these kind of, I wouldn't say negotiations, but reviews for the terms for their brownfields, because most of the companies now that are operating, we haven't had great discoveries lately. We are just trying to stop the sharp decline, natural decline. Having said so, there was a need definitely to discuss with some of the partners some revisions in order to improve the economics for both sides. And I think that we have managed together to progress successfully, and definitely EGPC has been able to show the flexibility, and definitely you have definitely my support, as you know. In order not to just repeat what was said, I'm just very happy that we have such roundtables, we have such dialogues, because this, as I said, demonstrate and proves that we are still able to offer attractive opportunities to IOCs, to partners. Therefore, with this dialogue, which I would encourage everyone, and especially the Oil and Gas Technical Committee, so Engineer Sameh, to continuously go on with the discussions and to get engaged with EGPC in order to continue what we started together, in order to reach ultimately, I mean, if we talk about strategy, but we need to have executive plans for that. So different topics that we discussed and different challenges, but we need to have a roadmap for this on the way. We are open, and I'm ready. EGPC is ready for discussions and for implementing these plans with a clear roadmap to come up with effective suggestions and creative solutions. I mean, not just broad lines and open ideas. No, we need to have very specific and smart suggestions. Nevertheless, I would ask Oil and Gas, Mohammed, please, that we would need to have such roundtables in order to get feedback after what the committee will do with the EGPC and IOCs. We come back with some, I wouldn't say a roundtable then, we'll say like not even a workshop, not just like a conference or whatever we name it now with this COVID-19, in order to show us what are the final results and what are the outcome that will come out from the meetings that the committee will have together with EGPC. And having said so, I really would like to thank you once again, Mohammed and Sameh, for this roundtable, as well as I'd like to thank all the speakers. I thank them for being there. Thank them for the support that they are giving to EGPC and to the oil and gas sector in Egypt. And really thank also all the participants who have attended this roundtable today. Thank you very much. Wishing all of us all the best, inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency.
Thank you, Your Excellency. On behalf of the members of the committee, we would like to thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your attendance.
Thank you.
Thanks to all.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
Have a good day for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.